Very well. California Congressman Buck McKeon, a Republican and chairman of the Armed Services Committee. Washington Congressman Adam Smith is the committee's ranking Democrat. And Congressman Smith, we'll start with you because you have introduced a bill to rearrange the way the sequester money gets allocated.
Yeah, there's several problems with this. I mean, first of all, is the sequester, is the amount of money being cut, but also it's the way they do it. They do it in the sequester just across the board. Every program gets cut by the same amount. We're already 5 months into the fiscal year. The Pentagon has started spending money on a variety of different programs. You can't build 2/3 of a submarine, for instance. It doesn't really work. So what my bill does is eliminates the sequester and says, yes, you have to find savings in both the defense budget and the other non-discretionary programs, but you can do it in a rational way, and you can do it over the course of 8 years, not in the next day and a half.
Well, Congressman, that's what the sequester was supposed to motivate, right? It was supposed to motivate both sides to sit down, take a look at some spending, and find places to cut.
Yeah, and the super committee wasn't able to do their work. See, the thing that all this focus on sequestration, we forget that we have already cut $1 trillion out of discretionary spending. Half of that came out of defense. Defense accounts for about 18% of our overall spending, but about 50% of the savings we've taken out of defense. And this is a time of war. And I think that what we need to do is step back and take a breath. And Adam's bill, while I don't agree with his premise, I do congratulate him on his courage, because his caucus has been asking for tax increases, as has the president, and his proposal doesn't push for tax increases. That's a brave position for him to take in his caucus.
Oh, I just talked with Juan Williams about you know, what's happened to the federal budget in the last 10 years. Almost 90% increase in federal spending in 10 years. It seems unsustainable.
Well, it is unsustainable, and I appreciate the compliment. I don't want to let the record reflect. I do support tax increases. It's just that's a separate part of the equation. If we're going to deal with the deficit, the idea behind sequestration was we're going to threaten to make draconian cuts in defense and other discretionary programs, because we won't want to do those cuts. We'll finally address both taxes and also mandatory programs, which aren't addressed in this and which are 60% of the overall budget. Look, we got a huge deficit problem. We got to get spending under control, but we've also cut taxes for the last 15 years to the tune of about $7 trillion. So if we're really going to deal with the deficit, I think we need to raise taxes and cut mandatory programs. We're refusing to do that and simply torturing the discretionary portion of the budget, including defense, in a way that I think harms our country.
You two come from opposite sides of the political fence, and Congressman McKeon is over here nodding, seemingly in agreement.
Well, his comment on the mandatory spending, as he said, it accounts for 60% of our budget. 50 years ago, it was less than 30%. It's growing. Discretionary spending has dropped the same amount. Defense spending is half what it was 50 years ago, and we're at war. And so what we're talking about is some huge cuts on top of already huge cuts that we're just instituting in this fiscal year. And I think what we need to do is step back, take a breath, and say, look, if we're going to have a balanced approach, then we better look at mandatory spending. If we totally eliminated discretionary spending, no defense, no education, no roads, no transportation, no parks, no border security, no FBI, eliminate it all, we would still be running a deficit of $500 billion a year. That is not sustainable.
And I just want to make clear, these cuts have an impact. I watched the earlier segment. There have been 800,000 furlough notices that have gone out to defense civilian employees. Most importantly, the readiness, the preparation of our troops that we're getting ready to send to Afghanistan. There are cuts happening now because of the way the sequester is done. Because you can't plan, we are reducing the number of flying hours. We are reducing the amount of ammunition that these troops can use in training. So the soldiers that we're going to be sending over to fight are not going to be as prepared as they should be, because these cuts are happening in such a mindless across-the-board way.
A quick yes or no from each of you. Will the sequester happen on Friday?
Yes.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Congressman Buck McKeon, Congressman Adam Smith, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Well, right now.